Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, severe storms and flash flooding targeting the Midwest, the fast-moving wildfire near the Grand Canyon exploding in size, and the mandatory evacuations, and the search for the missing in central Texas as the region faces yet another flash flood threat. First, severe storms bashing the heartland stretching from western Kentucky to Michigan. Overnight, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts from Colorado to Illinois, knocking down trees and power lines. A life-threatening flash flood emergency in Davenport, Iowa. Our weather team tracking it all. And in central Texas, memorials in the midst of devastation. At least 129 dead, with more than 160 still missing. We're with Navy SEALs and their team of expert divers assisting with the search and recovery efforts. Also tonight, new details on the Air India flight crash. Was it sabotage? The confusion in the cockpit as fuel to the plane's engines was shut off just seconds after takeoff. The pilots questioning each other, what we're learning from a new report. The deep divisions among President Trump's administration and his supporters over the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Top Justice Department and FBI officials pointing the finger at each other over the decision to close the high-profile probe. What we're learning tonight. The new tariff threat. President Trump now says he'll impose 30% tariffs on imports from Mexico and the European Union. The high-stakes negotiations. Selena Wang is at the White House tonight. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to temporarily stop those controversial immigration sweeps and arrests in California, saying they are being made without probable cause. How the White House is responding. Those raids triggering protests across the U.S. The New York Yankees' Aaron Judge makes history, how he slugged his way into the record books. America Strong, reuniting those surviving campers with their cherished items after the catastrophic floods in central Texas.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday. I'm Martha Raddatz, in for Whit Johnson.
Welcome back to My View and our exclusive interview with President Donald J. Trump, who this week has taken decisive action to restore fair trade and position American businesses for success. Plus, with the big, beautiful bill now signed into law, it's clear America's potential is stronger than ever.
We're really busy, and doing a great job. We have other countries wanting to do business with us so badly. They never appreciated it, now they do. You know, they took advantage of our country on trade, on the military, on NATO. You saw I solved the NATO problem last week, and we had every country is now paying substantially more money, like from 2% to 5%, and they weren't paying the 2, but they're paying the 5, and it's over $1 trillion a year. And we have a big voice in NATO now. We had really not much of a voice. With Biden, you had no voice at all. He didn't know where he was. And so we're doing well. The trade thing is going to be very big, and we're sending out letters as we speak. They literally just started going out, and I signed the letters. And it's basically telling countries that we are going to give you the privilege to shop and work in our country. And I think it's very good. And in some cases, we'll make deals. You know, we'll make a direct deal as opposed to a letter. And we've already made some of them with various countries. But it's a tremendous amount of money to this country. It's really incredible. The potential of this country is incredible. It's been run very foolishly. It's been run stupidly, so stupidly. And some of the countries are very upset now because they've been taking advantage of us for 30, 40 years. And I had it stopped. I was stopping in the process, and then we had the COVID in the last part of my administration. But we had the strongest economy in the history of our country. And this is going to be better. I predict this is going to be better. The money coming in, the tariffs coming in, and hundreds of billions of dollars are coming in. They're pouring in.
Well, you talk about all the money coming into the country, how big, the tariffs will be, and leveling the playing field. You asked to have the one big beautiful bill on your desk to sign on July 4th. You got it on America's birthday. The question I think a lot of people have is, when will they actually start to see the positive impact from the one big beautiful bill in their lives? The tax cuts, all of the big things that we could see from that.
They're already seeing them, and we are getting investment because of that bill. We're having investment made in this country that nobody's ever believed. We're up to close to $15 trillion. Other administrations they wouldn't do that in 4 years. $15 trillion. And we did it that was a number from a couple of months ago, and now it's substantially higher than that. We're having car companies come in and build their plants here, which they wouldn't have even thought about. They would have never done it. We have AI, which is a big hot thing, and
On this Saturday night, demanding answers. Police face the public after a violent sexual assault on an 8-year-old girl in eastern Ontario was initially blamed on an animal.
That's just horrendous. It went on for so long before there was a decision made, by the OPP.
Officials are providing an update and taking questions at a town hall tonight. Pilot confusion or technical malfunction. The cockpit recording raising new questions about last month's deadly Air India crash. Your happy place. A survey reveals Canada's happiest and saddest provinces. Plus, celebrating inner beauty.
Pageants, they're changing from, I would say, rooted in vanity to community work.
The new generation of pageant queens vying to be named Miss Indigenous Canada. Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Simple. Good evening and thank you for joining us. A small Ontario community is demanding action and answers after an alleged violent sexual assault of an 8-year-old girl that police initially suspected was an animal attack. Police have since arrested a 17-year-old in the case. He's been charged with attempted murder and sexual assault with a weapon. The 8-year-old victim was found with life-threatening injuries on June 24th after she was reported missing, and she remains in hospital.
I want to recognize the impact that the last 2.5 weeks have had on this community. Certainly impact on a young child in your community, but the impact on everybody in this community, I can appreciate, is significant.
That is Ontario Provincial Police at a town hall tonight, speaking to members of the small community of Quadville, 170 kilometers west of Ottawa. Our Nathaniel Dove is in Quadville, where that town hall is happening. So, Nate, what are you hearing from people in that community?
Jeff, Global News spoke to Quadville residents who say they're frustrated and have questions for police. They say the initial police report that an animal attack had sent an 8-year-old girl to hospital with life-threatening injuries didn't make much sense.
Africa News. The news.
On France 24.
Thanks for joining us. 2 seconds. Here from Donald Trump. He says targeting the EU and Mexico with 30% tariffs starting August 1st. The U.S. president reviving his aggressive strategy. Fire Gaza are back at an impasse. Nearly 60 Palestinians were killed Saturday, half in Israeli airstrikes and half fatally shot while on their way to aid distribution sites. And after surge in high-level infiltration from China, the Taiwanese government is clamping down on mainland spies, but regular Chinese immigrants risk getting caught up in the crackdown. We have a special report from our correspondent, Jan Kamenzijn-Brumby, who will also join us afterwards to tell us more. Thank you for joining us. We begin with those latest tariff threats from Donald Trump. The U.S. president announced that he is slapping 30% tariffs on both the EU and Mexico, effective the 1st of August. The announcement, which he made in letters posted to social media, is part of a renewed tariff blitz from Trump, targeting some 24 countries.
This is DW News live from Berlin. Donald Donald Trump again ups the stakes on international trade. So New Mexico doubling down on measures directed earlier against Canada and others, also on the program. More settler violence in the occupied West Bank. Israelis killed 2 Palestinians, including a U.S. citizen in attacks. Plus, we'll look at the new naval technology that Taiwan hopes could give it an edge in a potential conflict with China. Thanks for joining us. Donald Trump says he'll impose 30% tariffs on imports from EU and Mexico starting next month.
This Sky News, the headlines. A cloud report in the Air India crash points to pilot. A whistleblower care worker who says she saw elderly resident being punched could face removal from Britain. Back on a trade war footing, Donald Trump threatened 30% tariffs on the EU and Mexico. The UK's latest heatwave peaks at which it's got more than recording its temperatures of the year. Plus, tears on centre court after the most one-sided women's final at Wimbledon in more than a century. Welcome to the programme. There's been a backlash in India over the findings of the investigation into the Air India crash, with some saying it leans towards pilot error rather than mechanical or electrical failure. Much information. The first official report into last month's crash found that the fuel control switches were moved to a cut-off position shortly after takeoff. 260 people died, including 52 British nationals, when the Boeing 787 Dreamliner came down in the city of Ahmedabad. Our Indian correspondent Neville Lazarus has more.
While investigating.
Over a so-called surrender deal with France over migrants.
Yes, Keir Starmer signed a new migration deal with President Macron, as you know. But the Tories are not convinced, saying it's more about photo opportunities and it lacks the substance. Others are warning that the policy won't stop a single boat.
Talking about this shortly. Since that deal was signed in 30, more than 1,200 migrants have crossed the channel and 300 more attempting the crossing yesterday morning.
But the Prime Minister is standing firm, accusing the Tories of insulting the French, and insists the deal will stop illegal migration in its tracks.
It's been 40 years since the greatest show on earth. We are looking back at the legacy of Live Aid, and in the next few minutes speaking to a nurse who inspired Bob Geldof and Midshire to feed the world.
And amazingly, there's another anniversary day, and 1 year to the day since US President Donald Trump was shot at a rally in Pennsylvania. A lot of people think it was the nine with a tape on it.
Health warning about the dangers of declining MMR vaccination rates.
Now, could this be the end of the royal rift? The King and Harry's aides, not them, but their people, have held a secret peace summit.
Good morning. There was success on grass at last for Eagles Beyond.
This is TV News Breakfast. After an out of control cloud and child in Melbourne's east. And the Queensland Government launches an inquiry into the CFMEU in the wake of a damning report into its content.
This is Queensland's Royal Commission into the CFMEU and the bullying, intimidation, Irish state.
Hello, to you. I'm Lee. Prime Minister has been forced to bat away fresh military demands from the Trump administration on the first full day of his visit to China. He's to come. Travel. Duties are imports. EU counter tariffs. Go says sovereignty is not negotiable. Against the backdrop of Trump's tariffs, Canberra is looking to bolster its trade with Beijing.
This is Asia Now.
It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 8:30 in New Delhi, and 10 o'clock in Jakarta. Integration and at this hour. The European Union and Mexico expressed disappointment over U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to impose 30% duties on their imports. The EU warning countermeasures if the tariffs go ahead, while Mexico says its sovereignty is non-negotiable. Against the backdrop of Trump's tariffs, Canberra is looking to bolster its trade links with Beijing. Australia's Prime Minister is on a week-long visit and will meet President Xi Jinping for talks. This will be their second encounter since Mr. Anthony Albanese's re-election in May. And Russia's foreign minister meets North Korea's leader.
Africa News. The news.
6 months after the fall of the M23 rebels, Uganda is reopening its border crossings with the DRC. The move will allow traffic to resume through Bunagana and Ishasha, areas now under rebel control. On X, the military assistant to Uganda's army chief said the reopening comes on President Museveni's orders. He has also warned that those who blocked the crossings and disrupted trade between the two communities will now face investigation. This move follows a recent peace deal signing in Washington, where Rwanda and the DRC agreed to back future peace talks between M23 rebels and the Congolese army. The stakes are high. Since late 2021, M23 rebels have waged a renewed offensive, one that escalated sharply this year. Kinshasa has long accused Rwanda of backing the rebels. The US has also backed Congo's accusations, pointing to evidence of Rwandan military support. But Rwanda has repeatedly denied those charges, saying it has no direct links to M23. A month after the catastrophic crash of the Air India flight, the cause of the disaster is becoming clearer. A new report from India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau revealing the plane took control switches when the ground to cut off just seconds before impact. The crew switched them back, but it was too late. The engines could no longer pull power fast enough, causing the aircraft to plummet. The in-flight must have started seconds and to be eliminated at the ground, but the plane crashed into a neighborhood in Baghdad. Incredibly, one passenger survived. It's one of the deadliest aviation disasters in India's history. That captured the cockpit audio and flight data were recovered quickly and analysed in India, helping investigators understand the fatal sequence. Authorities have lost two sections across Air India's fleet. The Boeing 787 pilots. Air India has acknowledged that it received preliminary reports and says it will continue to cooperate with authorities in the investigation. Tensions are rising between Somalia and Ethiopia as peace talks over a controversial port access deal have stalled. Since February, Turkey has been mediating negotiations between the two countries. It is a growing dispute triggered by a 2024 agreement between Ethiopia and Somalia. The deal gives Ethiopia access to a 20-kilometer stretch of coastline, in return for a possible path to recognizing Somalia. Somalia sees it as a clear violation of its sovereignty. In response, Mogadishu has launched a strong diplomatic campaign to oppose it, drawing international attention. On January 3rd, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed repeated his position, fully access to sea in development. The deadlock is drawing regional powers. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed earlier in the week, promising increased military support to protect base and security. Many see that move as a direct competitive to Israel's ambitions. With no new negotiation dates announced, the business situation will remain unresolved for the foreseeable future.
A new roadblock for the Trump administration's immigration tactics. A federal judge holds indiscriminate raids across California as chaotic scenes play out, including this violent clash.
Annalise Preston in Culver City, California, where immigration advocates hope the ruling eases tension.
Also tonight, escalating threats.
I'm Willie James, and been traveling with the president in New Jersey as he ramps up the rhetoric and takes aim at more U.S. trading partners.
In the Middle East, a U.S. citizen is beaten to death by Israeli settlers as Gaza's misery deepens. I'm Elizabeth Palmer in Tel Aviv, where a new housing proposal for Gaza from the Defense Ministry is causing alarm. In Texas, a new weather danger.
I'm meteorologist Andrew Kozak. Tonight, new flash flood concerns, including areas of Texas already waterlogged.
With no end to the heartbreak and hardship.
I'm Trent Law in Kerrville, Texas, where the search for the missing goes on following last week's deadly floods. How the community has stepped up to help.
Bad Bunny returns home, putting a spotlight on Puerto Rico. And later, solar farms are booming. How they're all thousands of sheep to work.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
And this flood threat the president questions swirl about whether the FBI's deputy director could step down. Follow from a judge's ruling limiting some immigration efforts and what Democratic lawmakers say they saw inside a controversial detention facility. New questions tonight about the death of a 20-year-old American man in the West Bank. An inside look at how government funding cuts are taking a toll on critical recovery programs. And there's good news tonight about this woman's adventure of a lifetime. This is ABC News with Jose Diaz. On PBS News Weekend, from the 4th of July flash floods in Texas begins a second week. A new analysis reveals FEMA has endangered where more than 2 died. Then the ongoing search for in Argentina years after thousands disappeared under the country's military dictatorship. And adoring fans from around the world converge on Thailand to celebrate the first birthday of a social media sensation named